Davos isn't just about big business or the economic landscape or opinion makers. Davos is also about the soft power, and which is where global opinion, thought leaders all come together. My guest right here is Karan Johar, one of the leading names of the Indian film industry. But in Davos, he's not just going to be talking films or cinema or the soft power. He's actually going to be talking on some of the most relevant issues of our times. Thanks very much, Karan, for being with us.
No, thank you for having me.
It's good to see something colorful in Davos, so congratulations on that jacket.
Yeah.
But you're speaking at two events, and one of them is crime and violence against women, and the other, of course, is Pride, which is the LGBT. Right. Why are these issues close to your heart, and why did you decide to speak on them?
Well, I think, I was asked, I was given a plethora of topics, and I think these topics are something that, I believe very strongly need to be addressed. One, of course, is to do with, violence against women. And I think that, when I read statistics and I read stories, and of course, it's always, something that, we as filmmakers are concerned about how to address that cinematically. I think it's something that we need to address, which we do in our own way. And I think sometimes there have been mistakes and errors that some of us have even made in our films, where what we've done and not realized how impressionable our medium is, and what we've done casually or without any thought, and not realizing that the ramifications and impact that what we do in cinema can actually change the fabric of the way, your people think and the way they may have thought as a result of what we have shown on celluloid. So I think that that is something that I really want to talk about. And when it comes to, of course, LGBT, and I think the fact that, especially with the recent judgment,
that's right.
I just think that the kind of liberation sexuality now has in our country, I think is something that we need to celebrate, talk about, and make sure that, the movement keeps going.
And a lot of the world hasn't really gone the way where we have, so I think it's worth celebrating. But if I may ask you a more candid question, and 2 years back, many people would have thought of Karan Johar as India's leading filmmaker who runs a very, very successful business, but not as someone who's, who spends time thinking about socially relevant issues. What has changed? Has parenthood changed this? I mean, what has really brought about this change?
Well, I was always somebody who was conscious about my environment, about the community I live in. It's just that some of my cinema, that was a perception built as a result of my cinema, that I was perceived to be a person who made frivolous, fun, glamorous, good-looking films.
I love your movies, if that's any consolation.
Well, no, thank you.
Yes.
But there was always a kind of a reputation that preceded me, something that I never agreed with, and I never combated because, there was no point, because after a point it was like no matter what I did or said, I was asked, oh, aap sirf ameer logon ki filmein banate hain, yeah, you only make good-looking films about good-looking people. And I'm like, my cinematic choices or my subject matters don't really completely kind of reflect the kind of human being I am. So there are things and causes, and every time and again when I made a My Name is Khan way back in 2010 addressing the misinterpretation of a religion,
right.
or when I took up stories about repressed sexuality in a short film that I directed in the Omnibus,
right.
or then recently when I talked about a woman's right to pleasure, sexual pleasure. These are things that I have talked about, spoken about, addressed, or even the way one has as a company addressed, sexuality issues in films like Kapoor and Sons, and of course films like Dostana, which we've also criticized for, and what we continue to do. So there have always been, in a tiny way, we've taken on topics. But at the end of the day, I will still be asked the same question that I make films, that
and why are you suddenly talking about socially relevant issues?
So I mean, I'm not a filmmaker that's taken very seriously, and that's fine.
No, I think there's a perception, but I think perceptions are getting changed. And I think a lot of people are waking up to the reality that people are socially very conscious, and I think you should take heart from that. But one of the questions that I think I wanted to put forward to you is, when the whole Me Too movement was happening, there were two industries, and I hate to admit it, it was media on one hand and film industry on the other, that was really at the center of the entire controversy. It looked like every man was a predator. It looked like every woman was being preyed upon. Why do you believe that happens? Do you believe it happens because women in our industry, you can't divorce sexuality, sensuality, being a woman from the films that we make? Is it inevitable then that something like this is going to happen? or corrections have to be made?
Well, I think definitely corrections have to be made. I think there is a certain kind of misogyny, there's a certain patriarchy that needs to be crumbled, that needs to kind of fall apart. And I think there was also a sign, also subconsciously, I think our cinema has propagated so much without realizing how it can actually influence the fabric of the nation or the world and the surrounding. You know, like I myself have gone on record and said that I've had a kind of these now, item songs like we talk about, for example, I have no problem with item songs where they celebrate music. Item is like a celebration, a song, like a Battamiz Dil is an item song.
Sure.
But then I would not repeat a song that actually objectifies a woman anymore, where you have 100 lechi men and a woman at the center of that, because I think that it suddenly makes it sound and feel like that's okay, that is legit. When movie stars do it, it becomes a validation. Yes, I understand that the Me Too movement began, and to answer your question, why is it at the center of the film fraternity? Because it's always been the case. You know, we've always been like a filmmaking nation where there's talk about casting couch and there's talk about, you know, like that's the way you get to the top.
Right.
Not necessarily true at all points of time. And we're no different from any other industry where there have been cases of abuse and cases of, you know, the power game being played.
And perhaps more concealed.
And much more concealed, because no other industries has written about as ours is, you know,
Sure.
for various reasons. I think the movement is an empowered movement. I think it's a movement that must exist because it eventually is a kind of a checking process. You know, it does make sure that like there are some, of course, gray areas, there will be overlaps, there will be collateral damage.
But do you believe the movement itself has made a lot of people very conscious of how they behave,
Yes.
how they talk, what do they do?
Yes, it's become, I can see how everyone's really scared, because, you know, everybody's now, it's gone to the other extreme.
That's right.
That will settle down. There will finally come a time where there will be just emotional and, I would say, attitude accountability.
But how does a filmmaker like you find that fine balance between what is light-hearted banter, what is celebration of sensuality, sexuality, and at the same time being very conscious of not objectifying a woman?
I just think that, you know, if it's kind of a vibe, like if you mean flirting,
That's right.
and you mean like something that's just like,
Because
you know, putting
suddenly it seems
yourself out
flirting
there.
is not all right too.
Well, I hope flirting always exists. It's such a beautiful part of the wooing process.
I agree
or
with you.
I think the dynamic between, you know, between two people. You know, and I think emojis were made for a reason. You know, I think that's why flirting actually got enhanced, you know. I always say the wink emoji was made for a reason. I think a woman knows when the flirting is legit.
That's right.
When it's actually coming from a place of like good romantic virtue. And I think a woman also knows where the flirting can be sleazy, can be inappropriate, and can be something that is objectionable. I think a man similarly knows when a flirting or a pass, so to say, is allowed and not allowed. I think it's an equal arrangement. And where Me Too actually does come into play is when actually none of this is, it comes into play. It just is basically when a man crosses boundaries and where a woman is meant to just accept that.
But Karan, is the power play really at the core of Me Too or any other things that
Yes,
we spoke
it is.
about?
Very
it's
much
simply
so.
power play.
It is a
eventually.
lot to do with power play. It is to do with people who feel like men, particularly because the movement is about that, is men who are in superior, powerful positions in their head, and they think that they can get away with anything. And I think that it is definitely something that needs to be addressed, because it's just there, it's in the thinking, it's the way so many men in this country were raised. They were raised. Sometimes, and I have to say this, and I hope I'm not offending anyone when I say this, but sometimes it's many parents, or maybe sometimes mothers,
that boys can get away with.
where mothers actually have made their sons believe that they're invincible, and you know that they make them that you can get away with blue mud.
Ladka hai to sab theek hai.
Yeah, but that is
Exactly.
just incorrect. So I think the irony is that there is sometimes a mother that may have created a monster in her son by just thinking that she's giving him love and freedom, but actually she's completely damaged him in ways that could never be reversible. So I feel like the Me Too is about man dynamic with woman, but there are, and maybe it's a minor percentage or a large percentage, I don't know data, but there are, I would beseech mothers to be careful about how they raise their sons, because it's about time that they say the politically right things to them sometimes.
No, absolutely. And I think raising children is an issue that I want to speak to you about in just a while from now. But I can't not have this, I can't have this conversation and not talk about the recent controversy on your show, which is Hardik Pandya and KL Rahul. When you were shooting that episode, did you know it's going to snowball into something as big as that?
No. So I have to say that, you know, I haven't spoken about it really, and recently, just yesterday, I gave an interview where I spoke about it, and I have to say that I feel very responsible because it was my show, it was my platform. I invited them as guests, and so the ramifications and repercussions of the show are my responsibility. I've had so many sleepless nights just wondering about like how I can undo this damage. Who's going to listen to me if I, you know, if I even go in, it's now gone into a zone that is beyond my control.
That's true.
I have to say, and I don't defend myself when I say this, I have to say that the questions I asked the two boys are questions I ask everyone, including women. You know, there are women, the Deepika and Alia were on the show, I asked them those questions.
Exactly.
I've asked them. I have no, as I said, I have no control about the answers that come my way. And post the show, I have a control room of about 16 to 17 girls. I have a show, Coffee with Karan, is run entirely by women. I'm the only man there. None of them
Had an issue
came
with
up. Some thought, oh, he was wild, he was crazy, he's cracked, he's mad. They said funny things. They said he was funny. No one came and told me, Karan, this was inappropriate. Maybe we should reflect on it. And as a result, I have to admit, I didn't think that
Do you
what
regret
was
it
happening.
in hindsight?
I regret what's happened to them. Yes, if you ask me that this is whatever happened to them, and then there was talk about me actually enjoying the TRP. I don't care about the TRPs. This is a spin-off of my career. It's not my career, but it's theirs. I mean, I don't care about the ratings, and what people don't understand that an English language show is never dependent on its ratings.
Exactly.
It's never, as we are nowhere on the radar of the ratings. You go and look for TRP.
A lot
the
like
top,
English news.
yeah, a top like 500 shows in the English language will not show up in comparison to a GC rating. It was not ratings. It is meant to be my show, and I want to say it is a frivolous, is a completely sometimes borderline ridiculous, irreverent, candid. Stop making sense is our mantra.
But do you believe
that's the show?
No, absolutely, that's the show, and I think, you know, a
But
lot
I'm
of
not
people,
saying that I'm justifying the conversation that happened on that episode. I'm just saying is that I think that perhaps things were said that may have crossed boundaries, and I apologize because it was my platform where it happened. I feel the boys have faced the price for it already.
Do you believe there was some sort of a competitive, you know, a competitive collaboration to outdo the movie stars and come across as the cooler guys?
No, I don't think so. I think their personalities were just to have fun. Maybe lots of members in the sports industry, you know, are always talking sport, and maybe this was an opportunity where they were, because I don't know anything about, I'm not personally somebody who has that much academic knowledge about cricket. So I'm meant to talk about, I always ask people their personal lives, their likes, their dislikes, who they find hot, who they don't. It's not that, you know, I was trying to be, I am, at core, I am a strong feminist. I've said it before, and I've been raised by a very strong woman. I've had aunts who are very strong women. I believe in the power of women and what they can contribute to society and the world. I would never want to offend them, and that was not my idea. I've asked these questions to the girls. If you note, if we have a Priyanka and Kareena episode, you can ask them. You saw Priyanka's episode last season. There's Deepika and Alia this season. There was Sonam and Deepika. Okay, there were so many combinations of women. Go back. I've done 150 episodes.
If you were to reshoot that episode, will you go back to shooting it the same way, or will you be far more conscious today?
I will be so conscious about shooting any episode now, my dear.
Have you shot an episode after that? After the controversy?
No, I haven't. But if I do, I'll be so worried about asking the kind of questions that I would, because I was being edgy, and that is the vibe of the show.
Are cricketers off your list on Coffee with Karan?
I think I'm off their list.
Okay, but you know the ramifications of this. I know, you know, they've been issued show cause notices and all of that, but the ramifications of this were felt on your show. I mean, Google deciding to not be a part of this, or Hotstar asking you to. How does a maker of a show like you, you know, basically receive criticism that comes on account of that, and advertisers willing to pull out and things like these? This must be tough decisions.
Well, I think at the end of the day, everyone has to do what they've had to do for whatever reasons. My show is an edgy, irreverent show, and obviously people who feel it's not matching their profile may or may not want to be a part of it. The brand value of the show, in fact, you know, is what it is. It's been around for 14 years. It's been on air for 14 years. We've done 150 episodes. I do feel...
I'm quite an avid watcher of the show, though, must admit.
I was just at Davos and I bumped into about 50 people who told me how much they watched the show from all over the world. And I think the show's popularity is not something I'm concerned about because, as I said repeatedly, it is not something that is my core profession. It is a spin-off of the job I do. I enjoy it.
So you don't create controversy so that the show gets eyeballs?
No, it's not that I was chasing it. It's never something... You think I call cricketers and I ever imagined that this would happen? I didn't chase it. I don't chase... Yes.
When did you think it got out of hand? At what point of time in the controversy did you think, okay, this has snowballed into something bigger?
The thing with social media is that it becomes a kind of... it becomes a ripple effect. You know, one picks up, somebody says something, somebody adds to that, it becomes a storm. And that's the way it is, that's the age we live in, and that's something that I cannot change because, you know, it's the environment we live in. And I'm like, yes, I feel bad. I feel bad that, you know, that these boys have to go through, and I really hope that, you know, everyone, the powers to be, and if they're watching this, that they've had their punishment, they're not playing, they haven't played 3 matches. I just hope they get back on the field. Probably they've learned from what they've said, and I think they moved on. I mean, they're good cricketers, and they deserve to be on the field, and, you know, if they made a mistake, I think they paid their price, and I hope that, and I'm sure they've learned from it, and will not repeat it again.
Karan, one of the things that I think one would ask filmmakers today is that we've seen a movie like An Accidental Prime Minister released, then there was Uri. Is Bollywood, or actually wrong term, is the film industry in some sense getting involved with the political battle that lies ahead, elections 2019? Do you believe movies could be used as vehicles of communication, as vehicles of propaganda?
Look, movies are always going to be a communication vehicle. Uri, I know for a fact, is not any propaganda vehicle. It was a script that actually I had read many years ago, right after it had happened. Aditya Dhar was a director who was meant to work with Dharma Productions. He was very passionate about telling the story. He had nothing to do with the politics of the country. He had nothing to do with what... This was born there, and I know it has nothing. Ronnie Screwvala is an exceptionally progressive liberal man who I don't think is politically slanted at all. So I don't think any of those agendas... I haven't seen Accidental Prime Minister, so I can't comment. But I don't think we've ever been a very a kind of a filmmaking nation that has ever been like this. Is the first time it so happened that 2 films pre-election released which is perceived as propaganda. I'm not sure that that was the agenda, and we definitely not a filmmaking nation that promotes propaganda. That is not something we do. That is not us. We're completely disconnected from that. Our lead actors, filmmakers, writers, we are in fact strong voices that perhaps have personal opinions but have never exercised it on celluloid. So there's a lot of talk about suddenly our movies being propaganda pieces, and I'm not in agreement with it. I don't think any of these filmmakers really chose to kind of suddenly decided to release a film because they thought that this is something that for whatever vested reason would kind of talk about the elections 2019. I'm not sure that was the agenda at all.
No, I agree with that perhaps, but I think the question that one would also ask you at this point in time is that why is it that people like yourselves, who are excellent communicators, or your friends who, again, understand the politics of the day, I'm sure they have views, why is it that we don't voice those opinions? You know, look at how it is in the US. You know, you can name call the president, you can give free speeches. Is India still a nation where film fraternity should not be talking about the politics of the day, and why not? You're a very important
part. We should be
talking.
It's a bona fide large democracy. We must exercise our thoughts, our opinions. And I think there is, and I have to say, there's always an inbuilt, I think, apprehension, you know, about like putting your opinion out in a country such as ours, because we're an exceptionally sensitive country. I think people, if you're talking about the United States of America, everyone's saying everything everywhere and, you know, probably getting away with it. I'm not sure some of us, as you've seen the experiences we've all faced as filmmakers, it's a tough time, it's a volatile time. You know, we make films. Our films sometimes get banned, we go through threats, we go through fears with our film, and what happens is that if we lose the weekend of our release, we lose a child. We're still finding our feet where it comes to the economies, and it's not something that no one is protecting us from that. So I think everybody gets a bit concerned and therefore just keeps shut.
And you are easy soft targets, and there is no denying that.
We're a soft power that is an exceptional soft target.
Absolutely. There are 2 quick questions that I want to ask you on the business that you're in. You're obviously a very, very celebrated filmmaker. You do a talk show. You now this new fashionista on the scene. Is this a commercial line that you're going to follow? Do you have plans to follow through As far as the, you're being a fashionista is concerned, is this going to be a business proposition going
Well,
forward?
there were talks about coming up with a label,
That's
and
right.
we're still in discussion with everything else happening in my life. I don't know how much time I
There's
can
quite a
give
bit
it.
happening.
There's a lot happening. So there is thoughts, because the fashion for me has always been a hobby, and it's a billion-dollar industry in the world, and I think it's tend to take in. And I think finally, men's fashion has come into its own. So I'm basically a little bit of a crazy retail manic person. Like, I like clothes, it's something I've always liked, and for me, so whether fashionista is a label that has been given, I don't know. I wear some clothes that could meet with all kinds of responses. Sometimes people wonder what I'm wearing, because there's always a lot of like in your face, and some people appreciate it because of it's coming from a zone of fashion. But I'm not sure if I'm going to get into it in a professional manner, but there has been an internal discussion, I won't deny that. Whether that is fructified or not, we don't know.
So ET Now is a business channel. I think I must ask you, do you know the money that you make, and do you know where it's invested?
Yes. I know the money I make. I know the investments. So Purva Mehta, the CEO of my company,
That's
is
right.
basically the heartbeat of the financial aspects of Dharma Productions. I know the money I make. I know that I can make much more than I'm making, and I know I have to do something about it in 2019.
Where do you invest your money?
Well, I used to invest it, as a hobby, I invested in art till I realized it was not something that I wanted to continue doing. Property is something I invest in. There's also, of course, economic investments that are made, well, not in the share market particularly, but equity-based investments.
I
That's
understand. Mutual funds maybe.
Yes.
There is one question that I think all our viewers would want to ask, and who better than you to answer that? What is this airport look all about? How does this work? You call up camera people, you call up journalists, are you best dressed? How does this work? Because we keep getting these queries. Ask filmmakers, how do airport looks work?
So you don't have to ask
Spill the
filmmakers,
beans.
you have to ask everybody. So the
Okay.
thing is that there is a PR machinery that knows the activities of their clientele, which is actors, filmmakers, producers, whoever. Some people get organically photographed, because some people are also people who will contact their PRs and tell them, please contact the paparazzi, I am at the airport today. They get ready, they get dressed, they get papped, they're in the online sites, everywhere. It's a very organized machinery. It's not that, so the paps are also at the airports a lot, but they're also informed 80% of the time. We must tell you that it's an organized machinery that works.
We've always wondered, how do the paps always
And
find...
that's why everybody has to wear big glasses, because not all of them can do makeup all the time, and your under eyes can look kind of tired. So that's why big glasses come on, your clothes come on, your handbags are shown, and I've been a victim of it, I know. There are many times that I've informed them myself when I feel I'm wearing something nice, and sometimes when I'm not wearing something nice, I feel sometimes they're there to see somebody else and they happen to catch me, and then I have to always be ready. You have to always be jacket, glass and bag ready, because you're going to be archived for posterity.
Is your go-to accessory big glasses?
Always, always. You don't know, it's a Bollywood thing. You must know that. I was once told on a flight, see, again, I'm sounding frivolous, and it could get me into trouble, because I'm supposed to project my serious filmmaker avatar in Davos, which I'm not doing. But I have to tell you, once I was flying and I was landing, and we were a group of actors there, and an air hostess, it was a British Airways flight, and she came and told me, and she says, so I have to ask you a question. We fly, lead actors from all over the world, but what's it with Indian actors? As soon as we're landing, everybody's dark glasses come on. I'm like, it's just part of our DNA. I'm sorry, whether it's a funeral, a wedding, or an airport, wear dark glass ready.
Okay, quickly, we're going to wrap this up, but I'll do a rapid fire with you.
Oh, no.
Let's turn the tables on. So, quick questions, and obviously you know this better than I do. Favorite movie of all times?
Pyasa.
Favorite actor of all times?
Rishi Kapoor.
Favorite movie of last year?
Last year, what released last year? As in the year that went?
2018.
I can't say one of my own, right?
You can say.
I can say Razi.
Yeah, that's a good movie. Favorite movie, actually the movie that you're looking forward to most in 2019?
Again, we have a host of releases, but I'm really looking forward to, what is coming this, again, we have about 7 releases. It's tough for me to think of who else is making. I won't mention any of mine, because that would be politically incorrect, because I'm producing the others. What am I looking forward to? There's a host of exciting movies being made. I'm looking forward to...
You're not doing good justice to your rapid fire.
I am looking forward to Gully Boy.
Yeah, that's good.
Zoe
Your best
Akhtar's
friend.
Gully Boy.
4 a.m. friend.
Kajal Anand.
The Khan of all seasons.
The Khan of all, Shah Rukh Khan.
One movie you wished you had directed?
A movie I wish I directed. Well, I wish I had my name on Lagan.
One guest who's been toughest to put on the couch on Coffee with Karan?
To get there or to chat?
To get there.
To get there is to convince to get there. Actually, it's been quite easy getting to, but to convince to get my childhood friend Tina was very difficult. Twinkle.
Wedding of the year 2018?
Wedding of the year? Well, I have to say that the real wedding season began with Anushka and Virat. You know, that was the first time you saw two celebrities, you know, in a really like a getaway spot, very private. Nobody knew what was happening. Images were coming out. I remember seeing Anushka and Virat's images, and I was like, I feel like crying. It was like an emotional sequence from a beautiful film. So I would say, well, they were not 2018, but I believe they began the wedding season.
So Deepika Ranveer or Priyanka Nick?
Well, because I think it's unfair to compare, because both of them made amazing, beautiful brides and grooms. But because I think I know Ranveer and Deepika better, I would say them.
So wedding that you're looking forward to in 2019 and will probably happen?
Well, is Akash Ambani's wedding.
Okay. An emoji that's your go-to emoji at all times?
The wink.
The most important parenting tip that you perhaps learnt or have acquired?
Parenting tip is to not be paranoid about little medical issues. Kids are resilient, they will get better.
And a quick last question then. What does Davos mean to you?
The coming together of great minds from the world in one place.
Thank you very much, Karan Johar. On that note, never a frivolous filmmaker, perceptions get built, but he's ready here to talk about violence against women and the LGBTQ community. He's also shared deep thoughts on the show that became very controversial in conversation with us right here in Davos on ET Now, Karan Johar.